All right, guys, so I've been holding off on the video of the Chevy while we got the tune and the new turbo squared away, but we got some new tires on it. They're about the same height as the bald ones that were on it before, but we went down to a 235 75 16. We're just trying to prevent from having to re-gear the axles on this thing, keep it pretty much as low budget as possible. And they seem to be doing pretty well. I think we're at like 2700 RPM at 80 mile an hour, so it's about right. It could be a little higher for how heavy this thing is, but we got the engine back in. Everything's pretty much hooked up how it was. Besides the new turbo, we've got a GTC 1549, which is mostly, I guess you could call it, probably the common rail turbo is what it's commonly on, I should say, on the newer 2.0 turbos or 2.0 TDIs. And that turbo is good for around 30 or 32 psi, and we are pushing that pretty close to maxed out. And what that does for us is give us a lot cooler EGTs. We're going to get it out here and do a road test and just kind of compare, but overall it just leans the mixture out to where we're not over fueling if we don't have to. And so that should make this thing way more drivable. Previously, just with the VNT 15 or the stock turbos, we were only running 20 pounds of boost, and EGTs were pretty easily getting up to 1400 even at 65 mile an hour. So we're hoping that fixes that and just gets this thing a little more roadworthy and usable. It's close enough that we think it's worth getting it more drivable long term. So let's go ahead and go for a drive. Also, I was going to mention, we went ahead and did the PD 150 head bolts whenever we put it back together. That way we can handle that 30 pounds of boost. And what else was there? We tried to get a higher stall torque converter, but it's proving to be more difficult to figure out what it needs. The TDI does not make enough torque at idle to slip like a V8 would, and so all the measurements that you'd take and the specs are just not matching up at all. So we pretty much ended up with another stock converter, and we've got it back together now, and we're probably just going to go ahead and drive it like that and just see before we go ahead and tear the tranny back out to get a different one in there. It's looking like if you want a 1600 to 2000 RPM stall on a 4L60, you're probably going to need closer to a 3 or maybe even 4000 RPM stall converter for a V8. And so that definitely messed that plan up for us. So we'll get her worked out here, but for now, just for driving it around, driving it to work and back, it is doing very well as far as that goes. So really can't complain overall. We just don't have that lightning takeoff that we could have with the higher stall converter. I'm definitely feeling that in the Dakota already. It slips right up into boost and that thing wants to go. So we'll just have to see what we want to do down the road. All right, so this is probably my first time getting to be a passenger, letting Chris drive his truck for the video, but we are getting on the highway here and testing out the new turbo and the new tune. And right off the bat, the EGTs are so much less than they were. So we're still in third gear here. It's about, the speedometer is about 5 mile an hour slow, or fast I mean. So we're getting up to 70 there, and we're at about 1200 degrees accelerating. And there we went to overdrive, and we are 80. Yeah, we're at 80 mile an hour, 2700 RPM. And it's still pretty warm, but we couldn't even try to run 80 before. It's about, I think it's 75 or 80 degrees out, so we'd pretty much be stuck doing 65 before to keep it under 1300 degrees. And it is cruising nice right now. We got the speedometer buried, and we're flying down the interstate. So here we're pulling a pretty good hill. We went down to third, still doing about 75, and we're still keeping the EGTs under 1300, and we couldn't do that before. Pretty much running 11 to 1200 EGTs. So it's doing real well. All right, we'll do like a full throttle pull here. And it gets right up to 60 like nothing. Of course the EGTs are a little higher accelerating, but it's overall running way cooler than it was. And it pulls these hills that we're going through like nothing. Alright, so yeah, I would say we probably dropped at least 200 degree EGTs, if not 300, on the highway by being able to run more boost. Even though that turbo isn't a whole lot bigger, just the boost capability really helps run these bigger vehicles on the road. I would say this thing is much more drivable, clear up to 75, 80 mile an hour. And I mean, the extra benefit of that is we can use it to make more power on the top end. And again, with Techmetronics tuning, we pretty much have it set to about the last 10 to 15% of the throttle. It opens up the fuel, and then of course EGTs go out the window, but we can run way closer to full fuel on this BEW with stock injectors, and use that 30 pounds of boost to make this thing just take off. And it's pretty impressive, honestly. I'm pretty pleased with the outcome, and as you can see, it really turns this thing into a daily driver. And so far we're seeing somewhere it'll drop to about 18 miles a gallon in town, and we'll have to see with this lower EGTs and a leaner mixture on the highway. We were already seeing over 22 miles a gallon, it may be even a little bit more. So that is pretty awesome for this thing. So we'll see what other videos we get of it down the road, but that's just giving you an update on how it's doing. Thanks for watching.